I often give this analogy in groups. When you're in an airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first before you can put the mask on your child.
Yes, absolutely.
So men have to have that space to take care of themselves, express those emotions, and allow themselves to express those emotions because they're a human being. They have those emotions. Then address whatever's going on. And then be okay to go back home and be at a place where you are not worried. You're not quite second guessing yourself. You're not questioning yourself. Am I man enough? You are enough.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Hello. Welcome to our first episode of EmpowerMen. Conversation on healthy masculinity and gender-based violence. I'm your host, Gori Katembo, and to be completely honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous, but at the same time, excited. It's time that we bring men to the table to talk about issues, things that affect our families, our community, but also our country. We're going to dig down deep into these topics that often we don't talk about enough, which number one is the gender-based violence, mental health, relationships, identity, boundaries, and everything in between. For me, this is about helping young men to become the better version of themselves. I know from first-hand experience, trying to navigate these things alone can be challenging. I know the world is full of pressures, stereotypes, expectations, and it can be lonely out there. And as a man, we can feel a little bit lost. But today, we're going to start with an incredible guest. When I say incredible, if you don't know who she is and you work in a nonprofit sector here in Manitoba, you are missing out. We have Nina Condo, the Executive Director of Elmwood Community Resource Center, someone with a wealth of experience in community development, mental health, gender equality, and her journey all the way from Rwanda to Canada. Her work in mental health, social justice has inspired many, not only in our province, across Canada, including me, number one. She's here to help us to unpack what is gender-based violence, to define it, the root cause of it. How does this impact our community? So, if you're ready, let's go dig. Let's go dig deep to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So stick with us. Let's start this journey together and see what we can be or we can discover about what it means to be a man, but also to understand gender-based violence and our role as men to help to end this crisis that is affecting our nation and our communities. Welcome.
Thank you.
Where do we start? I have had the privilege to know you from a community from far, but now have a privilege to work under your leadership. And I know you are a trailblazer, a visionary leader, and a lot of things that you fight for. And there's so many things, gender-based violence. And why gender-based violence first? Why is this close to your heart?
This is the first time somebody asked me that publicly. Why is it close to my heart? I am a mother of 2 boys, and I see in the work I do how gender-based violence impact individuals, impact families, impact community. And a little bit of a story. I grew up with in a community that is collective, and from that, I saw my best friend's family going through gender-based violence, where the mother was uneducated, low income, and experienced really the worst of it. Where now she will come to school and share what happened the night before, and she will be in blue and bruises. And to me, from that young age, I started advocating for her, like telling her, these are the things that you can do. Let's get our education. Let's study. Do better. And even just visiting her and encouraging her family or her siblings and having those talk with mom, how are you, somebody to check in on her. And for me, from that age, it kind of pushed me to push for social justice, to fight for those who do not have power, to fight for those who do not have voice. And that is important for me. And now that I'm raising 2 boys, I want my boys to disrupt those societal narratives of men don't cry or those unhealthy masculinity, right? So I want them to be the next generation, the image of the next generation, that men can cry, men can have equal power with their partners who are female or gender diverse folks. I want to ensure that the community that we're building are healthy and people can thrive. Because if people are living in oppression, they cannot thrive because they're constantly worrying about the repercussion that will happen to them. That's why gender-based violence is important to me.
Wow, that's very profound. And hearing that, it speaks close to me because I have 5 brothers, right? And we have 1 sister, and each time we talk, we try to talk about this conversation. And during summer, as you know, some of the work that I do in the community, I deal with men, in sports, in business, it's just men. And I've seen some of this. And one day it struck me. I'm like, okay, the way how we're handling things, anger and these things, and where we cannot express ourselves because men supposed to be this and that, it's killing us inside. And now, often when we talk about gender-based violence, I didn't know about this topic until I started reading down, do a little bit of research. And all I knew was gender-based violence was about physical violence, and that is it. But I think there is more to that. Can you define what is gender-based violence and what are the forms of those violence? Is it just physical violence or there's more to it?
There's more to it. So gender-based violence is any harmful act that can be perpetrated to another human being, to an individual, based on their gender identity, gender expression, and based also on either their socioeconomical ability as well. But gender-based violence can happen to a man as well and can happen to a woman. So some of the misconception is that it only happens to women, but men's also experience gender-based violence. So gender-based violence is rooted on power and control. So it's based on allowing that power and control to oversee or step on somebody else, and also rooted on patriarchy, and patriarchy is the root cause of gender-based violence, as well as some of the colonial ideology that brought on this patriarchy idea of, men has to be stronger, men has to take control, men has to have power. Some of the form of gender-based violence includes physical violence, spiritual, financial, psychological, sexual assault. Those are some of the forms of gender-based violence. And oftentimes, I don't like to call victim, but those who are experiencing gender-based violence oftentimes stay in those relationships because either, one, they don't have the financial ability to move forward. Some of the question I keep hearing is, why do they stay in that relationship anyway? They should be leaving. Like, if somebody's beating you, then get up. It's not easy.
It's not that easy.
It's not easy to get up because you need the financial to move forward. If you have children, if there are children involved, then you have to look after your children as well. You have to look at the well-being of everybody. And also it comes with societal pressure. So if I leave my husband or my partner, then it's not just me. The society, the community, they will pressure me to stay. Some of the idea, like the negative idea of gender-based violence is also you keep your dirty laundry in-house. You don't share it outside. So oftentimes there's shame and guilt. So because I feel shame, I'm not going to share it with you that I'm experiencing this at home. But we also have to look at the other side. Oftentimes, men don't have the safe space to come and share what's going on with them.
Absolutely.
They don't have the space to talk about the pressure they're experiencing, the stressors of life. And that compounds to the way they will react and address and, wounded people or hurt people hurt other people.
Yeah,
so
like
if
that.
they're hurting, then they will hurt the other person. So those are some of the just key pieces. I know I'm going around and around.
No, this is very profound. And just to give people an idea, just to get in perspective, let me give you some statistics on gender-based violence. 1/3 and over, like, to give you just a little bit more stats on this, right? Around 137 women are killed by family members every day worldwide. Globally, about 700 million women are married as children, often face high rate of gender-based violence because they're limited to education and opportunities. In Canada, 4 in every 10 women in Canada experience some kind of intimacy partner violence. Indigenous women in Canada are 3 times more likely to experience violence that compared to non-Indigenous women. In Canada, again, 64% of women have reported experiencing physical or sexual violence by the age of 16. Now, we have talked about this gender-based violence, and I'm looking and trying to look at it. And the more I started digging down deep, the more I started understanding it. Because before I was like, it's physical. Just as long as it's physical, it's okay. And I recently just got married about a year ago. And as a husband now, coming as a religious man, as a husband, and also as a, very African man, trying to hold on to my culture and my values and what it means to be a man. For example, they're like, okay, man, you're supposed to be in control, right? Or you're supposed to handle the financial side of the household, right? And the more I started reading down deep, and I was like, okay, I think I'm doing something wrong here, right? Sometimes this gender-based violence, I think it's so rooted sometimes in a culture that it's a normal thing, but yet it's harming other people. Right. So what would you say, like, what is a role of culture, religion in gender-based violence?
Congratulations first.
Thank you.
It's good to know that you're passionate about this and then also how you're applying it in your personal life. That speaks volume. Now, how does gender-based violence interact with culture and religion? I will say that oftentimes there's a misconception that gender-based violence is caused by culture beliefs. I say it's caused by societal norms. This again, when I go back to that intersectionality of colonialism and patriarchy, it stems from those ideology or ideas that was brought on, and the society has embraced it, where it's legitimized men's power and control over women, over women's body, over women's independence or freedom. And those societal norms are the ones that are causing perpetration of gender-based violence or perpetration of any type of violence. But also when we look at religion, I'm a Christian, and we know that divorce is frowned upon it. And oftentimes when you're even exploring, divorce doesn't come in the conversation from even that culture perspective as well, because that's what we grew up seeing, And that's what was normalized, that it's okay for a woman or a gender diverse person to experience gender-based violence, and that's part of building your family. But that's not okay, right? It's that those societal prejudice and norms and values that we've embraced or we've received, and we continue on with it. So that's why for me it's about disrupting those societal norms and disrupting those values that are not healthy. And then if we go to the Bible, but also the Bible says respect your wife and respect your husband. And even I look at Quran, the prophets is also does say that to respect and cherish your partner. So to me, then, yes, divorce is not wanted, or is not embraced, or is not welcomed. But we also have to talk about the other side that we don't talk about, that we're also required by our religion to respect one another, to treat one another with kindness, humility, and the way we want to be treated, and the way they want to be treated.
Absolutely.
So if we look at it, if we go to that core teaching, we know that in no way, shape, or form we're being asked to overpower, to control somebody. So then it becomes a bit more looking at this that structure violence, where now patriarchy, oppression comes in, and it's being used to maintain women at the subjugate role, and women are being stratified to become a product, an object.
An object, yes.
And not a human. So gender-based violence, that intersection between colonialism and patriarchy, they humanize women. They humanize, racialize, especially racialized women, especially indigenous women. It takes control where you don't see that person as a person anymore. You see them as an object or your property.
That is very profound. I think it was yesterday when the officer talking about this topic, and to go back now in our history, right? Back where we come from, before the colonials, before some of the religions came to Africa, where both you and I come from. How was women, like what was their role? Was it just only to nature? Because based on my history and what I read, like women were powerful. They were warriors.
Yes.
Like they were sitting, like they were, yes, they were not like maybe kings but they were sitting, they were part of the table, decision making, right? But now we see that's like something happened, something changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so what would you say, like, what do you think caused that change? Because often, like, indigenous women, and I try to read about many different cultures and to see, like, they were powerful, they were respected, there was that equal balance of power between men and women, right?
Yes.
What do you think caused that change to say, okay, now, indigenous women are here, black women are here, and women now start being seen as object? What caused that? At what period of time or history that something changed, or like, right?
I often go to pre-colonial era. Pre-colonial era, I will speak to my own culture, because we have a lot of cultures, even culture within culture. So pre-colonial era, I know women were behind the kings and making those decisions or advising them. And they were, even at home, like women, like mother's wife, had an important role. And it was a matriarchy system, that collective system that we will not make decision without the other person.
Absolutely.
We'll make decision together. And those were stemmed from that pre-colonial system where before colonialism and settler comes in and bring those ideology of colonialism, which is control, disruption, economic advantage, so taking over your economy, your land. But that comes, then it brings that patriarchy piece where it's about male's power control. And then now, pre-colonial, I remember some of the stories my grandma and grandparents were sharing is sitting around and talking about family issues and coming back to, okay, we can make this solution. Then we'll ask for extended family. We'll ask for some of the community members to come and share, like the community leaders to come and ask advice. Yeah. Nowadays, it's a bit different. We also have to be mindful that because of the reality of today, we sometimes just make those decisions on our own. It's becoming individualistic instead of collective. Yes. And when it becomes individualistic, we're not seeking advice. Yeah. We're just sticking to our own perception and belief. And sometimes those perceptions may not be right. Mm-hmm. So we need each other to keep us on check, keep us on track. Okay, am I thinking wrong if I say this way? Or am I thinking wrong if my wife is saying no and to me no is a yes? But if you don't have another person to check you, then you maintain those ideas and belief systems that are really crooked. I'm sorry, but they are backwards.
Yes.
But when we have friends who can collectively talk to us and tell us, okay, you're doing something wrong, or maybe you should look at it at a different perspective. And then bring those conversations together and invite your partner, whether it's your wife or your partner, your fiancé, whatever it is, invite them to that conversation. And then if I step away from that micro individual system to go to macro, society also has to allow women to be part of the conversation. Absolutely. To allow racialized women to be part of the conversation. It is so sad to see fewer and fewer racialized women at the decision-making table. They need to be there. Change will not happen if we're not in that conversation. Change will not happen if we're not asking, how would this impact you? And it's also important for the few of those racialized individuals who are at the table to go back and consult with their community. Absolutely. And not to make those decisions without consulting their own community.
Oh, that's very profound.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Just to add a little bit on that, I think even myself, when we're talking about the women, and often I have this with many of my close friends, colleagues, to say, okay, we need to understand often and I'm a Christian too as well, when they say women, sometimes they describe the weaker vessel. And I'm like, whoa, you got to hold on right there. If as men, we can understand the power of a women, like what they are able to offer, what they are able to bring at the table, I think we'll start changing the way, even when we're promoting an organization in business or appointing, like there's certain like wealth of experience and knowledge that these women bring to the table. And I think for me, the way how we used to, like my parents seeing this, my father, right? Now been married for about 45 years to my mother, and the way he was a businessman. So my dad would do all the business, and then my mom managed all the money. Right? So that's like upside the other down. Like my dad would bring all the money here. She managed all the money. Right? And I saw them doing this. And then until I came here to Canada, and I'm seeing, what the society, what the media, how they're portraying women. I'm like, okay, this is very different, right? I think we need to understand that. And when you're talking about, we need to bring these women on the table when we're making and decision makers, right? Who is on the table? Often when I say who's on the table, when we're developing policies, that's especially about a particular maybe gender or issue, who is on the table, right? Are we consulting the community? Are we bringing these women on the table to be a part of that decision making, or we make that decision or those policies and say, okay, here, and follow this, right? So we need to change that. Now, I know we have a lot to unpack. Now, often when we talk about gender-based violence, and I've been to couple few workshops, and often it's full of women, right? It's full of women, and I'm like, okay, this is wrong. I think I went to couple few, And there was about maybe 30 women, and we were 2 men in that room. And I'm like, am I in the wrong room? No, I was not in the wrong room. I was in the right room, and I needed to be there to learn some of these things. Now, we have this initiative called Empowering Men. Why do you think it's important that men come to the table as we're discussing this topic of gender-based violence?
Yes, indeed. Oftentimes, we tend to do program for women, and then we forget to bring the men as well. So Inspiring Men's program started at Elmwood Community Resource Center, I want to say over 5 years ago. And we wanted to ensure that whatever the women is learning, the men are also learning. So when they go home, they have that same conversation. They help each other to build each other up. And this Inspiring Men program that we are trying to empower men is to ensure that men are at the table. They have the safe space to talk about what's going on at home. They have the safe space to challenge their own ideas, challenge their own values, and also the one that we're saying the woman is a weak vessel. No, yes, women might be delicate, but she's stronger.
She's stronger, and that's the thing.
We have to treat our women as diamond. The work that takes to get the diamond to where it can be sold, it's a lot of work.
And we're going to retweet that one.
So we need to treat our women, gender diverse folks, as diamond.
As diamond. Wow.
And when you respect an individual, you bring their self-worth. You say, hey, without you, I'm nothing, or without you, I'm not complete. Let's do it together. Trust me, that relationship will blossom. I've been married for the last 18 years.
Oh, that's congratulations.
Thank
18
you.
years, not the...
I'm still a baby.
No, that's a big achievement. 18 years is not easy.
Yes, but thank you. But for us, again, my husband changed diapers. My husband cooks. We do the same thing, right? There's no
gender roles.
There's no gender roles. So we all do the same thing. And for us, it's about teaching, again, our boys, knowing that men can be in the kitchen. Men can cook.
Yeah.
Men can come and serve you. I can go and cut grass for my loan, although he doesn't allow me to do that.
Yeah,
but I know how to do it, right? So if we treat each other like that diamond, both men and women, or both couple and partners, we will build each other better, and we can achieve better. Going back to your question about why is it important for having this empowering man, is empowering them to know, yes, you have power. It's innate. Society has given you from before you were born.
Yeah.
But we also need to empower you to know how can you change the society norms, what society expects from you, that you have the one to be the breadwinner. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
We can do together. We can do it as partnership.
Collectively. Remember
Collectively.
what we talked about before? Collectively, yes.
We can do it collectively together, right? Like it doesn't have to be you who's the breadwinner. It doesn't have to be that you cannot cry when you're sad. It doesn't have to be that you cannot be vulnerable. You can be vulnerable. The same way as women can be vulnerable, the same way as we allow our children to be vulnerable. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all have the feelings. We all have emotions. So we have to allow ourselves to feel those emotions, empower men to feel those emotions, identify those emotions, and work through those emotions in a healthy way and not in an anger. Because when we suppress that emotion, we suppress that anger, we suppress that grief, it turns into an ugly volcano that is going to be erupted.
Absolutely.
So before it becomes that eruption, let's prevent that eruption. Let's build on strategies on whether it's going to boxing, whether it's going running, whatever it is, for you to take care of yourself in order to be the better version of yourself to be able to give to somebody. Absolutely. When we are in our airplane I often give this analogy in groups. When you're in an airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first before you can put the mask on your child.
Yes, absolutely.
So I cannot be good if I don't take care of me first. Men cannot be healthy if they're not cannot be healthy to their partner or be a good partner to their children, a good partner to their partner or a good dad to their children if they're not okay.
They're not okay.
So we have to take care of ourselves first. So men have to have that space to take care of themselves, express those emotions, and allow themselves to express those emotions because they're a human being. They have those emotions. Then address whatever's going on, and then be okay to go back home and be at a place where you are not worried. You're not quite second guessing yourself. You're not questioning yourself. Am I man enough? You are enough.
That is just to expand a little bit on that, I recall, right, I have 5 brothers, 1 sister, and growing up, right, and we're in Africa, and I'm the youngest among us, so they're much older than me. I have kids already and everything. Growing up, and my dad used to tell us this, and my mom is like, you know what, ideally when you have in Africa, it's this culture expectations, okay, the woman will do all of this, do all of that around the house. Now, my dad used to tell us this, is like, you have only 1 sister, you have 5 brothers. There is no way she is going to take care of whatever, and only your mother also. Your mother is always busy helping me out the business and all of the. So there's no way you expect that your sister will do all of these things. And as you are mentioning, you're talking about your husband, doing all of these chores and, helping out around the house and all of these things. And your 2 boys are seeing this. And me even too, I remember, like the first time I saw my dad was in the kitchen. Like he is cooking. This is in Africa, matter of fact. Which sometimes like a taboo. Man, don't go to the kitchen.
Exactly.
And all. But I saw my father, show like doing this. So when I came here and when all our brothers, like we all cook, we all help out around the house. Like what do you think? Why is it important that men, especially maybe who are fathers, that already fathers, they have children, why do you think it's important they start showing because as men, as boys, whatever we see our fathers do, our uncles do, or elders in the community do, is what we think it is a man. Why do you think it's important that fathers start at home rather than anywhere else?
Absolutely. We have to redefine the value we want our children to take on. So it's important for the fathers and the men out there to be the role model for us and for our children. Yeah. It's important for them to see a good man, a good father. What does that look like? It's a father who will have a communication with me, who will talk to me. It's a father who will show me how to treat women better.
Absolutely.
It's a father who will show me how to treat my mother better. It's a father who will show me how to treat the community better. Absolutely. and not take advantage of them. So I'm glad to hear that in your family, you boys were encouraged to take over and support your sister. In my family, it's the other way around. We have 1 boys and 5 girls.
Oh, really?
So although often people think that he was spoiled. No, he was not
that's
spoiled.
That's usually the conception I had. I'm like, oh, he's probably spoiled.
No, not at all. He did what we were doing. So it was equally shared among all of us. The house chores, the responsibility, all of us were sharing those responsibility. And I guess for me as well, I grew up in that family where everyone was part of that conversation. We'll have family meetings. We'll have family conversation and check-in and discussion. And we used to have a debate, which I kind of translated with my kids as well, where every evening we'll have a debate on a subject, whether it's a political subject, whether it's education, whether it's religion. Yeah. And I do that with my boys as well. We talk about things that normally people will not talk about. So we talk about abortion. We talk about religion. We talk about how religion impact people's influence or decision-making when it comes to some of those subjects.
Wow.
Why is because we want to ensure that men and boys understand that it's okay to have those conversations, and it's okay to have an opinion and be prepared to have your opinion be challenged and be okay to change that opinion. So it's important also to, earlier on, I like that you mentioned about mental health. At the core, I see gender-based violence as onion. You peel one layer, you create mental health. You peel another layer, financial issues, which is now poverty or further economic imbalance. Another layer on sexual assault. Another, like you're unpacking a whole onion. And when some of us, when you cut onion, you're crying.
You're crying. Oh, tears. Yeah.
It's either tears of healing or tears of sadness. But we need that tears of healing. We need to start heal. Yeah. Whether it's men who heals and women who also are healing. All of us, individually and collectively, we need to heal as a community. We need to heal as a society in order. Remember my conversation about men has to feel good, has to feel okay, has to feel as a whole in order for them to go and be a good man or a good husband, a good dad. We need to start healing. But we cannot heal if we're not talking to each other.
That's true.
We cannot heal if we're not unpacking all those layers of onion that we've internalized until we start exploring it and talking about it, or at least removing it from inside us so it's not holding us. So we're not passing that intergenerational trauma to the other. Yes.
Yeah, I had one person said this, is like, and we're talking about especially in the context of men, but also women. I think it's a principle that's can be applicable to both gender. Is the idea is like the best gift you can give to your spouse or to your children is heal from the trauma. From the past or whatever, that you gotta heal, because that's the greatest gift. As much as we're working hard as parents and trying to secure maybe their future education, retirement, and all of them, but the greatest gift that we can give to our children or to our spouse is we healing from those traumas, right? And I often say this as men. I think we need to heal, because if we become better. Right? Because I see a lot of the national problems that we have. It starts by maybe a broken home. Broken home becomes a broken community. It becomes a broken maybe city, right? It becomes a broken nation, and then it builds up. So let's start by healing, like one step at a time. Like if we want the society, if we want our province, our city, our country to be better, I think it starts one person at a time.
Absolutely.
And as men, I really encourage and welcome you to the table to say, we need to come to the table. And I know women are often very good at sharing with their fellow women about what's going on. As for men, I think I asked this question I was running a group this week, and I asked her, like, how often do you share with your men, your fellow, friend of what's going on? I was talking to the men, they're like, barely. Right? But we need to break that so that we can heal as a community, as people, and as a nation. Now, we can go here for hours and hours. This is just the first episode of EmpowerMen. Now, because of time, I just want to take a few minutes again. I know we have an upcoming event called Inspiring Men Dinner Event on December 5th. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Inspiring Men Dinner event is to do an official launch of this scaling up of Inspiring Men project, where we want to share with community stakeholder, what does that project look like? How can men come to the table and be part of the solution? And how can men and boys join this project or this program to build those solutions? Because we want to end gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
All the program that we often do, and I might get in trouble, it's a Band-Aid services.
Yes.
We need actionable services. We need services that will address the core issue from a policy, from a structural spaces, structural systems, from family, community. How can we avoid or end gender-based violence? And oftentimes this dinner is about bringing people together, bringing men and boys together to talk and come up with those solutions. Part of inviting people to be part of the table is that event, is having men and boys on the table and sharing what will work for you to end gender-based violence. What's coming in the way for you not to act when you see violence happening? We want to stop bystander approach. We want to have men to start acting and stepping in and interrupting those gender-based violence incidents that are happening. So at the dinner, we'll have few keynote speakers who will come and share their perspective of GBV, their perspective on how they think gender-based violence should end and how we can do it. We'll have a dinner, we'll have some activities, and we'll have a space to network. And I'm really glad and happy to have Godet, to have you spearhead this program, because we want another man as a role model to share what can we do to change and address gender-based violence. And some of the ideas that you've brought is amazing, because we want to reach men where they're at, whether they're playing sports or they're in the community having fun, reach them where they're at. So that way we're creating that space for them to talk about gender-based violence.
Wow. Amazing. Now, we only have a few minutes left, and this is a question that I will ask all my guests that will be coming on this episode. Again, because of time, what message do you have for the listeners? Is there any books, resources that you recommend men in general to start, if they want to start digging down deep a little bit on this topic and how they can become better version, or they can become an alliance to stop gender-based violence? Like, what resources are out there? I know we have this initiative coming up. Is there any other resources out there? Could be books, one book that have changed your life or have changed the way how you see gender-based. Is there any resources that you would recommend to the listeners for those who want to learn a little bit more about this topic?
Absolutely. Again, this is my bias, but I will recommend to go read on Elmwood Community Resource Center website. There's lots of resources on that website. Yes. We're also part of the National Gender-Based Violence Table. And on the National Gender-Based Violence Table, there's tons of resources of how can we understand what is gender-based violence, what is the root cause of gender-based violence, and how can we embark in that healing or being an ally. What can men do? Be an ally. Be an ally to the women, to the gender diverse folks, so that way we can end that gender-based violence. I often say also, explore, reach out to your community leaders, reach out to those that you feel like are doing the work, are your sort of your mentor, your inspiration, to go and ask them, can I have a coffee with you? I often call people, even though I don't know you, I will call you and say, hey, I've heard about you. Can I have a coffee chat with you and ask you some things that I want to learn and grow? Do that. Invite or reach out to those folks that you want to hear from them. I would say also start your own self-exploration, your self-healing, your self-journey. Yeah. But that journey can only start if you're ready. Yeah, that's all the message I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's why I feel like this role that I'm in right now, it's like self-discovery. Like, I come from a community, like from sports sector and all of the other things, but being in this role, it's like a healing process for myself, but also relearning of what it means to be a man and how I can be an ally. I think that's a challenge for the men. Men, you like challenge. Be an ally. Right? So thank you so much, Nina, for taking time to be our first of many guests on our podcast. We greatly appreciate your time, your wisdom, your insight on this topic of gender-based violence. So to our listeners, to our guests, wherever you may be, so make sure you follow us on Instagram, but also check out our website at Elmwood Community Resource Center. You will see there's a lot of great programs coming up. November 22nd, it's our first men group. I will be leading that. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, pleasure.